Institute has partnered with the Illinois Coal Association, the Indiana Coal Council, Kentucky Coal Association, and Hoosiers Count on Coal to host the 2018 Illinois Basin Coal and Mining Expo. This event brings hundreds of mining experts from all over the Midwest to educate and engage in discussion about the future of the industry. We welcome each of you to this symposium. I would also like to thank all those who have worked to make this event come true. Mayor Ranella, City of Marion, he's in the audience, but we appreciate the use of this fine facility. Kim Humphrey of Alliance Coal has really done a lot of the heavy lifting, and we appreciate Kim's work. Phil Gonnet with the Illinois Coal Association has been a major player as well. Candace and Kayla with Nighthawk Coal. They're our administrative assistants with the Illinois Mining.
To my right, far right, we have Steve Carter. We also have Joe Kraft, Don Gaston, and Kimmel Williamson. A little bit about our CEOs that I just introduced. Steve Carter is the president and co-owner of Nighthawk Coal and has been active in the coal industry for more than 40 years. Along with partners Red Robertson, Jim Bunn, and son Jimmy Bunn. He started with Creek Pond Mine in Jackson County, Illinois. Now Nighthawk has 5 surface and underground mines employing 380 direct employees and 250 contractors, dedicated over-the-road truck drivers. Nighthawk Coal produces 5 million tons of Illinois Basin coal annually, with total revenue of more than $200 million. Prior to starting Nighthawk Coal, Carter was employed at Arch Mineral for 19 years in various capacities, including tenures as Executive Vice President of Marketing, and Planning, and President of Arch of Illinois. He's a CPA holding a BS degree from Western Illinois University. Carter was recognized by Ernst & Young as an Entrepreneur of the Year in 2012. He also serves on the board of Banterra Bank and Banterra Corporation. Joe Kraft is President, CEO, and Chairman of the Board of Alliance Resource Partners, LP, the second largest coal producer in the eastern United States. ARLP operates mining complexes in Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, and West Virginia, and sells coal principally to electric utilities in the United States. He's a native of Hazard, Kentucky. He holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in accounting and Juris Doctorate degree from the University of Kentucky. And in reading his bio earlier, I understand he is an avid Kentucky Wildcat fan. College basketball has the best in Kentucky. He is also a graduate of the Senior Executive Program of the Alfred P. Sloan School of Management. Kraft has served in many industry and community leadership positions, including Director of BOK Financial Corporation, a Director and Chairman of the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, a Director and Executive Committee member of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, a member of the National Coal Council's Chair Leadership Council. Alliance employs over 2,000 employees and produced 37.6 million tons of coal in 2017. Don Gaston is the President and CEO of the Prairie State Energy Campus and is responsible for leadership and coordinating the Prairie State Ownership Group, which includes 9 nonprofit power companies serving 2.5 million membership owners across 8 states. Mr. Gaston has an extensive professional background in supercritical fossil generation, comprehensive safety programs, environmental control technology, and marked performance in improving power plant reliability through his more than 35 years in the electric generation industry. Prior to joining Prairie State, he served as the Director of Fossil Generation for the Public Service Enterprise Group, one of the 10 largest electric companies in the U.S. He has also held management positions with Southern Company and Tennessee Valley Authority. Gaston earned a BS in Mechanical Engineering from the Georgia Institute of Technology, MBA from the University of Tennessee, and completed TVA Executive Development Program at Vanderbilt University. Next is Kimmel Williamson. He is President of Americas for Peabody. He has executive responsibility for the company's U.S. operating platform and oversees the areas of of health and safety, operations, product delivery, and support functions. Mr. Williamson brings more than 30 years of experience in mining, engineering, and operation roles across North America and Australia. Prior to Peabody, he served 2 years at Cyprus Australia Coal Corporation as Director of Operations and managed coal operations in Australia. Mr. Williamson holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Mining Engineering from Pennsylvania State University, as well as a Master of Business Administration degree from Northwestern University. And the highest accolade I can pay to Kim Williamson is he's a former Benton Ranger. That carries a lot of stroke with me. Peabody is the leading global pure-play company serving power and coal customers in more than 25 countries on 6 continents. The company is headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri, listed on the New York Stock Exchange under the iconic ticker symbol BTU. Peabody is guided by 7 core values: safety, customer focus, leadership, people, excellence, integrity, and sustainability. Please join me in giving a round of applause to our CEOs here. My left, I said I was going to say this, to my far left, but I think we're in the wrong seats. Mike Bost, very well known in our area, but Mike Bost is here today. Representative Bost serves as the 12th District U.S. House of Representatives in Illinois. Sworn into office in 2015, Mike has prioritized bringing Southern Illinois values in Washington. These values were shaped during his time in the U.S. military, then as a first responder, a local job creator, and a state representative. Bost serves on 3 key committees: agriculture, veterans affairs, and transportation and infrastructure. Prior to his election to Congress, Representative Bost served for 2 decades in the Illinois House of Representatives, rising to the leadership position of House Republican Caucus Chair. Representative Bost is a lifelong resident of Murfreesboro and is very active in his church and community. Mike and his wife Tracy own and operate a small business in Murfreesboro and have 3 children and 11 grandchildren. Please help me join me in welcoming Representative Mike Bost today. Next, I'd like to introduce Representative John Shimkus. Right here, I had to look around. John, how are you? Good. Representative John Shimkus with us. He has served in the Army as a high school teacher, as a county treasurer, and as a member of the United States House of Representatives. Among his duties in Congress, John is a senior member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee and chairman of the House of Representatives. Among his duties in Congress, John is a senior member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee and chairman of its Environment Subcommittee. He also serves on the Energy, Health, and Communications and Technology Subcommittee. He is a member of the Biotech Wireless NG911, Recycling Coal, Steel, and Baltic Caucuses, in addition to representing the U.S. Congress and the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. In 1996, John won his first term as a United States Representative in what was the Illinois 20th District. John received his Bachelor of Science degree in General Engineering from the United States Military Academy at West Point. John earned his Bachelor's degree in Business Administration from Southern Illinois University. He and his wife Karen have 3 sons, and they maintain their residence in John's hometown of Collinsville. When we get later in the program, also with us is Erika, who is a Republican candidate for Illinois Attorney General, and John Shimkus is going to introduce her a little later, and he will give you a bio on Erika, and who we're very happy to have with us today. At this time, we're going to be joined by Mike Bost, who's going to speak with you. Another fine round of applause for Representative Mike Bost.
Thank you, Jim. And let me also, first off, welcome all of you to the Illinois 12th District. We're happy to have you here. We're happy to have you here for so many reasons, but one reason is because we love coal, unlike many politicians in the United States. For those of you that know me, this is going to be a repeat of basically my background in coal and why I understand what the importance is, and what I see the future of it is, hopefully in this United States, is we have an all-in policy. Let me tell you, I came from, as was mentioned, I was born and raised in Murfreesboro, but my grandparents on my mother's side were from Pinckneyville. Every one of them were coal miners. Through that, and through the 70s, many of us believed, no problem, coal's going to go, and that's what we do. Unfortunately, Clean Air Act, other things that came along, and you know what, all of us are for clean environment. Many of us believe, especially from the research we did in the state of Illinois while I served there, through the Clean Coal Review Board that I served on with Phil Gannett and many others, to try to develop that opportunity to continue to use our Illinois Basin coal, to use it in a way that we can keep jobs, but not only that, we can provide effective energy for our communities. Folks, we have an uphill battle that we have fought with our colleagues in D.C. I do believe that right now we're headed in the right direction, and the reason I say that is because we've removed a lot of the government regulations that would stifle the growth in our coal fields, that would stifle us from the opportunity to mine that coal and use it to the best of our ability to provide the energy needs that we have not only in the state but in the nation. It is my job, I feel like, to work towards that goal. Let me tell you that I believe through this administration and with the body that I serve in now, we're headed in the right direction. Jobs are coming back, not only in the coal fields, but all around this United States. I think after the tax reform bill that we did, if you look, it's the first time in the United States history that we have more jobs available than we have people to fill them. You know what? If you got to have a problem, that's a great problem to have. And let me tell you, the coal should be a vitally important part of that. I know many of the people that are sitting over here and have worked with them and listened to their constant input on what it is we do need to do to make sure that, one, they can continue to mine and that we can continue to provide them an opportunity to sell that product in which we're producing. Let me tell you also this. John's going to come up in a little bit, and he will talk, because though I dealt with this in the state of Illinois, as was mentioned earlier, I'm on transportation, infrastructure, ag, and veterans affairs. And we kind of have these committees of jurisdiction. And let me tell you how blessed you are, because you're going to be addressed by the next person speaking up here, one of the most experienced people in energy and environment, which is John Shimkus. He's going to talk to you about several bills that are out there that I'm on board with, that provide tax incentives, that encourage the growth in the industry. But let me tell you also, with his experience in that committee and the respect that he gains on both sides of the aisle, we will be able to advance these causes forward to make sure that our coal industry remains strong. I thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. And with that, I'm going to turn it either back to Jim or to John, whichever it is supposed to be.
Our next speaker is Representative John Shimkus. Please join me in welcoming him to the podium.
Thank you, Will. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, and it's great to be with these titans of industry, these CEOs, chief executive officers. They're trying to make things work, and it's always going to be a tough and challenging environment. Everybody in Southern Illinois likes to claim some mining heritage. I'm fourth-generation Lithuanian American. And when my great-grandfather, Casper Shimkus, arrived in this country, he went to work in a mine in Collinsville, Illinois. My grandfather followed him for a short time, and then he figured he didn't want to be a coal miner. He went to sell clothes. So that's all part of the heritage of what we are in Southern Illinois, and that's why we take our jobs very seriously in this position as elected representatives. I do want to thank the chief executive officers from the industries that are trying to make these, we want low-cost power. And historically that has come from coal. They have a challenge that they've been able to weather through, which is the war on coal. We've all weathered through it. And I can tell you right now that war on coal is over. Now, I'm not here to say that we haven't had some damages. And I do credit the President of the United States for helping us stop. And really the attack that we weathered over the past 8 years. as I said earlier in the meeting, we can put up our technology and our generation capacities, and we've got an example of that here today. We can put up our emission standards with any power producer today. We've got to make sure in our public policy debate that we're talking about, when we're talking about the environment, we like to focus on, our opponents like to focus on one thing. They don't talk about the environmental damage that occurs through maybe solar power construction. They don't talk about some of the degradation of the land through wind power. I've got constituents who've been driven out of the house on some of these issues. They just focus on one thing. So part of this whole environmental debate is making sure that we take credit for the things we're doing right, but also try to address this on a level playing field. I'm involved in nuclear power quite a bit. There is a cost of doing business even on what we would consider in the generation world of zero emissions. But I've spent 20 years trying to deal with what we call closing the fuel cycle, which is, what do you do with the spent fuel once it's done? And that's a burden that we all have to do, and we've got to make sure in the national debate that we're giving credit for all that, and we're just not picking apples and oranges and saying they're the same when they're definitely not. So the economy is growing through the Tax Cuts and Job Act. I've toured 5 manufacturing facilities in the past 2 days. All are expanding, all are looking for employers, and when they expand, guess what they need? They need more power. So that's another positive sign of a future as long as the economy, and that's directly attributable to the Tax Cut Job Creation Act, passed by the House of Representatives and the Senate, and signed by the President of the United States. We're also easing the regulatory burden, hence that's why the economy is going real well. Public policy matters in these debates. When I went back to school to get my master's in business administration, I had to take a class, and it was a class on how government can be manipulated in the business world, and how people go to government officials or regulators to try to incent or disincent and try to fight for market share or constrain their opponents from market share. So, hence, you can't escape from being involved in a public policy debate, because if you're not in that fight, your opponent will be in that fight. And we kind of see that in tax credits given to quote-unquote clean energy that disincentivizes what we're here for, to talk about the importance of base load generation. So the other things that we're doing, and I'll mention too, there is Larry Bouchon's a good friend of mine. He's from southwestern Indiana. That's in the basin. Good, strong member of Congress, also a cardiothoracic surgeon. It's an amazing guy. He has a tax credit bill that we're trying to push across the finish line to give us credit for what we do in the generation and rebuilding. One thing that we moved through the subcommittee just 2 weeks ago, we'll get it through the full committee, is a look at this regulation called New Source Review. New Source Review is a regulation that was well intended at first, but then, like anything that happens in government, you give it to the regulators, they expand it. So I talk about it very simply like this. If the stack emissions are the same and they meet EPA standards, and think about this, if you're a generator or in the generator business, and you want to put on a new generator that has double the efficiency, you're not affecting any of the emissions. Should you be forced to go through the whole entire permitting process? I would argue no. My good friend from West Virginia, Morgan Griffith, would argue no. The subcommittee that passed out of my subcommittee said we're changing that to make sure we redefine that so that if it's not dealing with emissions and emissions that are already meeting the standards, that should be thrown into that. Because an expansion regulatory regime, time is money, capital expenditures, what are you going to push for and what aren't you going to push for? Those are all important. So we're doing our best in Washington to help grow the economy, ease the regulatory burden, and push public policy that's incents the use of coal in America. We're only one chamber. We also have a Senate. Don't get me started on them. But I do know we have a President of the United States who's fully supportive of coal miners and steel workers and he's working hard to make sure we all have great jobs for the future. Thank you all. God bless you. God bless the United States. Now I get the great opportunity to introduce Erika, who is the Republican candidate for Attorney General. She wants to come over and say hello.
Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here and have the opportunity to share with you a brief update about one of the races that might have the greatest impact on Illinois' coal industry in the coming years, and that's the race for Illinois Attorney General. For the first time in 16 years, the Attorney General's seat will be an open seat, and that's because Lisa Madigan, who served as Attorney General for the past 4 terms, dropped out of the race a month after I announced my candidacy. This provides the state with a much-needed opportunity to move the Attorney General's office in a new direction. Lisa Madigan often used this office in activist political ways, targeting industries such as the coal industry on the basis of her own personal views, as opposed to simply following the law. Whether it was joining with other states' attorneys general in lawsuits that targeted the coal industry, or working to enact rules that unduly burdened the coal industry, Attorney General Madigan has used her office to pick winners and losers in the energy industry, as opposed to advocating for a balanced and fair playing field for everyone. My opponent, State Senator Kwame Raoul, would be more of the same. He's from Chicago, was appointed to President Obama's former state Senate seat, and is strongly backed by Mike Madigan and the Cook County Democratic machine. And as a state senator, he's championed legislation that would hurt the coal industry. A specific example is Senate Bill 3005, which he sponsored this past legislative session. Senate Bill 3005 would have given legal standing to any person, regardless of whether or not they lived in Illinois, to use Illinois courts to challenge the decisions of Illinois state agencies. So if a mining company followed the procedures to obtain a permit, and a state agency found that the permit should be granted, Senate Bill 3005 would have allowed a political activist from California or New York to have legal standing to come into an Illinois court to challenge the state agency's decision and to try to block the permit from being granted. This unfettered expansion of standing would exacerbate Illinois' already overly litigious environment. It would hurt job creation by driving up the cost of doing business in Illinois, and it would harm industries like the coal industry that simply want a predictable, consistent, and fair playing field. Unsurprisingly, environmental activist groups strongly backed Senator Raoul's bill. In fact, the Illinois Environmental Council took credit for it as being their initiative in the first place. With all of the challenges that Illinois faces, the last thing that Illinois needs is another Attorney General who will do the bidding of the environmentalist activist groups. As Attorney General, I will follow the law, I will enforce the law, I will refrain from picking winners and losers, and I will advocate for a fair playing field. I will also listen more and be willing to constructively engage with groups to be able to understand their industry and to see how Illinois' regulatory environment may be inhibiting economic growth. Last month, I was on a 3-week statewide listening tour that brought me to communities throughout Illinois, and it brought me to Nighthawk's coal mine in Pinckneyville. I had never visited a coal mine before, and I wanted to see what I might be able to better learn about the coal industry by actually going underground for a tour. And I greatly appreciate Steve Carter, Jim Smith, and the Nighthawk team for allowing me to go underground, to observe the operations, and to visit with many of the miners. During my visit there, I was struck by several things. I was struck by the commitment to building a culture of safety. I was struck by the number of well-paying jobs within the coal industry, and I was struck by the technological and mechanical innovations that are driving the industry forward. It was an extremely positive experience, and I think that all policymakers would be doing themselves and the public a service if they would seek to learn more about various industries as opposed to just operating on the basis of stereotypes and misconceptions. The coal industry is an extremely important one in Illinois, and you deserve an Attorney General who understands that. And you deserve an Attorney General who will not use the office's vast powers to try to destroy coal as an industry, and I will be that Attorney General. Thank you for what you do to support jobs in Illinois, to create energy options for consumers, and to sustain a way of life for generations of Illinois mining families now and the years to come. Thanks so much for having me.
I want to, first of all, just change gears just a little bit. I would like, when you hold an event like this, you never know what to expect as far as attendance. I looked out when I first walked out earlier. I looked out and you see the building on the almost filled, and you think what a great crowd for 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday afternoon. So I'd like for you all to give you all a nice round of applause for being here this afternoon for this event. We're going to just a little. Joe Craig, Don Gaston, and Kimmel Williams. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. One of the key things in an event like this is the logistics of getting people in the right place at the right time. And we have our final guest going to be with us right now. At this time, I'm going to welcome Joe Craig to the podium. He's going to introduce our final speaker here tonight, Governor Bruce Rauner.
I just want to say one more time, thank you all for being here and help me join in welcoming our next guest. It's my honor to introduce to you Governor Bruce Rauner. The governor was born and raised in Illinois. He's a self-made businessman committed to turning around Illinois by creating a more prosperous state where everyone has the opportunity to succeed. His first job was flipping burgers. His second job was parking cars. Graduated at Dartmouth College with top honors and earned an MBA from Harvard University. He began his professional career at the startup investment firm Golder, Tama, and Cressy. As one of its earliest partners, he helped build the firm into one of the most successful and respected businesses in Illinois, which has been trusted for decades to oversee the retirement investments of first responders, teachers, and other Illinois workers. Governor's also reinvested his business success back into the state through support of education, local hospitals, and community organizations. He's been a key supporter of projects such as Chicago's new Red Cross regional headquarters, the YMCA in Little Village, Illinois, charter high schools, and scholarship programs for disadvantaged students. He has served on the boards of numerous civic organizations, including the Noble Network of Charter Schools, World Business Chicago, and the University of Illinois Chancellor's Strategic Advisory Board. He is the proud father of 6 children, and his wife, Diana, is the love of his life. Together, they have devoted a tremendous amount of personal time and resources to improve education across Illinois. When I first met the governor, it was about 10 years ago, and he gave a presentation to a group of philanthropists on education. It was amazing how much time and energy he has put into trying to make this state better and America better. I applaud him. He's an inspiration to me for his willingness to serve and to try to lead this state. He's been a tremendous advocate for our industry, and I want you to help me welcome him. Governor Bruce Rauner, thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. It's good to join you today. I want to mostly come by to say thank you for your persistence. We've had a heck of a strong headwind against our coal industry in Illinois for a long time, and you guys have stuck with it, and I appreciate that. Your success is key to Illinois' success. I want you to know that I'm all for you. I came down from Springfield today because I specifically wanted to say thank you. And I wanted to get a good dialogue going with you and some of your colleagues here tonight and tomorrow on how we're going to move the coal industry forward in the state of Illinois. The federal government has not been good to our coal industry here in the Illinois Basin for years. Good news is, I think we got a friend now in the White House, and hopefully we can start to move the ball very much down the field in the right direction, turning our industry around. I heard some of the comments earlier about how we got to get bipartisan agreement. My own view is that's probably not going to happen. I don't know it's going to be bipartisan. Unfortunately, the Democrats have made it a partisan issue to have a war against traditional energy sources in America. And it almost defines the Democratic Party these days. So, in my view, I'm not here to do a political rally, but in my view, we've got to get folks who are clearly pro-energy development, pro-traditional energy, as well as other sources too are fine, but let's have a level playing field and let's get coal growing. We have a huge opportunity in international markets that we're taking advantage of to some degree, but we can do a lot more and a lot better. And I look forward to working with you to expand market opportunities in Asia and Africa and around the world with Illinois coal and Illinois Basin coal. I've been a business builder my whole life and was never in politics. And I'll say it was never my goal to run for office. But I did this because I love Illinois. I love the whole state. I've lived here my whole life, raised my 6 kids here, and I've helped build about 24 companies in the state of Illinois. We got the hardest working people in America here, best location, best natural resources, great transportation. We should be kicking tails. We should be booming better than Texas or any state. But we've had a corrupt political machine out of Chicago that just choked us with regulations and taxes and corruption. And I decided to run for governor because I just said I can't stand to see what's happening in the state. My friends are leaving, businesses are leaving, people are moving out, people are choosing to go to other states. What really frosts me, and I'm a competitive son of a gun, and one of my best friends was Mitch Daniels. I don't know how many of you know Mitch from Indiana. He's a good friend of mine, and I think he was the best governor in America when he turned Indiana around for the last, certainly for the last 50 years. Mike Pence is another dear friend of mine. Mike Pence is outstanding as well. But the number one state where our jobs have been going, Indiana. I mean, come on. We should be kicking their tails. And I like a friendly rivalry and competition. We can get this done. I can't do it alone. I've had to veto a lot of bad bills, and I've actually had to negotiate down and sign some bills that I'd rather not sign because the alternative was going to be worse. And it's been really hard. I can't turn the state around alone. When I started, I had a super majority against me in the General Assembly, but we worked hard 2 years ago, and even though the president lost Illinois by almost 17 points to Hillary Clinton, we were able to pick up 6 seats in the General Assembly. So we knocked Madigan out of the supermajority. And that was huge. Boy, my ability to try to get some better things done improved a lot. And what I'm hoping is we can pick up 9 seats for pro-job creator legislators. If we can pick up 9, then Madigan would no longer be speaker after 35 years, which from my point of view would be pretty outstanding opportunity. So we're asking, actually in this election, we're asking every candidate for the General Assembly to sign a pledge. For all of you who are Illinois voters, I know we got Kentucky and Indiana, a lot of folks here, but in Illinois, we're asking voters to demand every candidate for the General Assembly sign a promise, sign a pledge. That pledge says 2 things. It says, I promise to vote to put term limits on the ballot, so nobody stays in office more than 8 years, because 8 years is plenty. And number 2, I promise to vote for somebody other than Mike Madigan to be speaker after 35 years, because he gets elected every January by the members of the House. And anybody who won't sign that pledge, they ain't working for their district. They ain't working for Southern Illinois or Central Illinois. They're working for the machine out of Chicago. And I got my work ethic from my grandparents. My grandparents were dairy farmers, dairy cows and corn. And my brother and I still raise cattle and grow some crops. But I've lived in Illinois my whole life up in Lake County, the northern part of the state, up near Wisconsin. But I just got my work ethic from my grandparents. I helped them with the dairy farm. And I'm just all in to get our state turned around. I want to cut the regulations on you guys. We got pro-business, pro-job creators now in the Illinois EPA, in our Labor Department, in our Department of Revenue. I want to get the government so it's an ally for growth rather than hostile to growth, and hostile to business. And we've got pro-business people in a lot of our state agencies now, and I'm proud of the job they're doing. We're not perfect. We got to improve in certain ways, but we're doing pretty darn well, all things considered. But I want Illinois to be a leader and be in pro-growth, pro-investment, pro-job creation, pro-job creator. Cut the regulations, cut the taxes, roll back that income tax hike that they passed over my veto last year. Get the income tax down. I was proud to sign the bill that kept the exemption on sales taxes here on mining machinery and equipment. So help the mining industry, and I want to do more to help the mining industry in the state of Illinois. The reality is, I'm being challenged by a guy named Pritzker, who's running to compete against me for the governorship. He and his family were the #1 funders of Hillary Clinton and Obama. And they are a core part of the war on coal. That whole family, and that guy Pritzker, totally into the war on coal, and totally into special interest groups inside the government rather than working for people and the working people of the state. So everything's on the line this election. Everything's on the line. The question is, are we going to go in the direction of higher taxes and more corruption like Pritzker and Madigan are pushing? Or are we going to get more jobs and solve our financial problems with economic growth rather than the higher taxes? Key, helping you guys grow, Southern Illinois, mine coal, ship it around the country and around the world. And I'm all in for that. I've been to the White House several times, meeting with Mike Pence and the team back there talking about coal and how we're going to grow Illinois economy. And I'm a big believer that what the president's trying to do is the right thing. We've had unfair trade agreements, hurting jobs in America for a long time. And I applaud the efforts to try to, I'm a trade guy. I'm a believer in free trade. The problem is there's no such thing as free trade. There's fair trade and there's unfair trade. And we've had unfair trade hurting America for a long time. Tough thing right now is we're on the verge of a trade war. That's a tough dynamic because we can't back down. We have to stay strong, but trade war can hurt our farmers. It actually can hurt some of our coal exports too. So I've been trying to coach the folks in Washington on how to keep the pressure up, but try to keep the pressure on our opponents rather than on our own economy and our own jobs. So it's a tough balancing act, but we're going to get through it. I appreciate your work. I want you to know that I'm all for you. I hope those Illinois voters get out and vote this election cycle. Get pro-growth, pro-energy people into office. Find out who's signing the pledge. We also had a great leader. She was here earlier, I think, Erika Harold. I can't tell you how important it would be to get an attorney general who will actually prosecute corruption with me rather than defending her dad, Madigan, and defending the corruption. So getting Erika Harold in as attorney general would be, boy, game changer in terms of cleaning up the state and fixing the corruption. Get Erika Harold as attorney general, pick up House seats and knock Madigan out. Illinois has got a boom in the future and will be much more pro-investment, pro-job creation, and higher family incomes as a result. Coal will be a long-term major part of the Illinois' prosperity, and I look forward to working as partners with you to make that a reality. So keep up the good work. Hope you have a great rest of your conference. God bless you all. Thank you very much, everybody.
I want to back up just a moment and again say a big thank you to the Illinois Mining Institute, Illinois Coal Association, Indiana Coal Council, Kentucky Coal Association, and the Hoosier Count on Coal that has hosted this 2000 Illinois Basin Coal and Mining Expo. It's been a great event, well attended. Again, thank you for being here.